Are you aware how many schools operate for profit in Australia?
I'll hand over.
Is it more than a couple, Ms. Gordon?
So, Senator, Australian government funding is only available for schools that operate on not-for-profit
I do
basis.
know that. So why doesn't that same principle apply to early childhood education and care, where they're overrepresented already amongst providers not reaching the quality standards that we want them to reach, or the private VET sector, which has been rotting for years? Why doesn't that same principle apply to those two sectors?
Chair, I might take Senator Faruqi's... I don't think that's actually a question. I think it is
a question.
Philosophical question.
Is it because there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of donations provided
Senator
to
Faruqi,
this government
again, that is
by
just...
those
Senator
sectors?
Faruqi, that is just an outrageous assertion.
Well, that's very interesting because I thought actually that those sanctions had not been affected in the portfolio by the Future Fund. The UK has I've got a list of those who have affected sanctions, the EU, the US, and a number of others. So have you or have you not retained the Future Fund's investment in Adani ports, which is now embroiled in the Myanmar military coup?
We continue to hold the investment.
Several large global investment firms have now actually excluded Adani ports this year because of either their involvement with the military coup or the Carmichael coal mine, and the fact that we are in a climate emergency and investing in new coal was a really bad idea. So the Dow Jones Sustainability Index removed Adani ports in April on the basis of their links to the Myanmar military. PIMCO banned future investment in Adani ports bonds because of their links to the Carmichael coal project in March this year. The Scandinavian investment firm SEB sold its holding in Adani ports also in March this year, and Deutsche Bank backed out of participating in a bonds issue for Adani ports in January of this year. Why is it that the Future Fund is still investing public money in a company that is worsening the climate crisis and having dealings with the Myanmar military coup leaders?
It's not our policy to exclude companies with exposure to fossil fuels.
Just don't understand how you think it's okay for public money to be investing in a company that's dealing with a military coup that half the rest of the world has got sanctions against.
And as I've already explained, Senator, that's not the way we think about these exposures.
All right. I think you've got some work to do, Minister, on behalf of the Australian public to fix what we invest in. Thank you, Chair.
I mean, I'm aware of 48 families, so this is just what I've got on my books in my office, 48 families which involve 63 children who are separated, 62 children separated from one parent. There's one child separated from both parents. They've repeatedly applied for an exemption to the travel ban and repeatedly been rejected many times. So I guess what's the I mean, it's probably a question to the Minister, to be fair. What's the policy intent of not simply having a blanket exemption like you have for example, wealthy investors who hold 188 visas, who have a blanket exemption? They can come in and go out of the country all as many times as they like.
I don't think that's an accurate characterisation.
It's absolute. Are you suggesting that's not an accurate categorisation? Commissioner, is it true that a subclass 188 visa holder can enter and leave the country without a travel exemption?
For that, there's an auto-exemption category in policy for that particular visa type.
So they can come and go as they please as many times in a year as they please.
Do you have any screening requirements to ensure that JCLEC participants haven't committed human rights violations?
So we don't, and I think it's appropriate that we do not undertake any security vetting processes of candidates that attend the training. Of course, if we were aware that any individuals had committed any kind of human rights violations, we would not accept them onto the courses.
How would you be aware if you don't undertake background checks?
If we were to become aware through other mechanisms.
But you don't proactively undertake any human rights violation checks?
Not part of our usual practice, no.
Why not? Are you concerned that you might be training human rights violators?
I don't know. We're not. So
you're not concerned? I think you don't know whether you're concerned whether you're training human rights violators?
I think we've made it very...
since this has all become public, and there is a serious question over kickbacks and rorting of $40 million, almost $40 million of taxpayers' money for an environmental offset approval that was given approval by your department, no one in the department has bothered to go back and have a look. It's just a yes or no.
There was a compliance audit. We are obviously aware of these other actions. If we believe there's anything further for us, then we'll take any necessary action. So.
Do you consider conflicts of interest when you're looking at these issues of offset approvals?
I'm not exactly sure what aspect of the offset process you're referring to.
Or any of it. I mean, I don't think there should be a conflict of interest avoidance in any of it.
Well, if you're...
Surely it's about a proper process and doing due diligence. And it shouldn't just be, oh, that's somebody else's problem. Your department gives the approval. Surely you want to know what the... Surely you want to know what the legitimacy of the people making the application, of giving the reports about what will work, what won't work, of how much money it should or shouldn't cost.
Is it true that all those briefings indicated that the funding should be delivered as intended to acquire water entitlements for First Nations?
There is still some discussion going on in relation to how the First Nations communities who are being consulted with wish to proceed.
It's my understanding that there has been consensus and that there was consensus at the beginning of the consultation, and the Minister is now opening up the $40 million to other options. But as I understand it, the First Nations still want it to be a trust.
Okay. That's
after all, it's stolen water, right? It's all our water that was stolen by you all. But Senator, we're willing to buy it back with stolen resources. Are you aware that Minister Pitt put to this group an alternative of having jobs as part of the $40 million rather than what the group have asked for?
I'm unaware of that, Senator.
Minister, isn't the shorthand of the lengthy and in parts inaccurate answer you've just given that the rights of children to be with their parents don't have primacy, but money does? That's the shorthand of what you've just said, isn't it? Because special investor visas can come and go, holders can come and go as they like because they bring economic benefit to Australia. But if a child's separated from its parent and the parent happens to be a temporary visa holder, bad luck.
Senator Kim, I don't accept the premise of your question.
Yeah, but I think this is also goes into any other supports the government may be offering as part of a package potentially. I think people want to know, and it's urgent.
So, I mean, there are a myriad of ways that we currently support Australians who find themselves without income, and every single one of them is obviously available to Australians.
There are people, you get that there are people that are going to be getting desperate in lockdown right now because they live from paycheck to paycheck.
Look, Senator, I'm not going to preempt an announcement of government.
Do you accept that people will be getting desperate right now, particularly those that are living, they're casual workers, they are living literally from paycheck to paycheck and they're not able to work? Do you accept that they will be getting desperate right now?
Senator, the situation in Victoria is obviously of great concern, and obviously, the fact that it has gone on past 7 days is of concern, and we are working collectively with the Victorian government to resolve these issues.
40 reports have been received by the AFP since the 24th of February relating to 19 different allegations. 12 reports have been identified as sensitive investigations. 10 matters have been referred to State and Territory Police for assessment. 1 matter is still with the AFP for ongoing inquiries. 1 matter has been finalised. 7 matters do not relate. The other 7 matters do not relate to electorate officers, ministerial staff or official establishments. 5 matters were referred to State and Territory Police for assessment, and 2 were finalised without referral as no criminal offence was identified.
And how many, if any, matters, Mr Kershaw, relate to alleged incidents inside this building?
Brett Pointington, I'd have to take that on notice. Thank you. Well, I don't have the full breakdown of the
Do any of them? You must be aware.
Is that, I'm just like...
For the interest of accuracy, I'd have to take that on notice.
So is it government policy, as recommended by the IEA, to rule out approving new oil and gas fields or new coal mines as of this year?
The IEA makes over 400 recommendations for particular policies.
Just back to my question, is it government policy, as per the recommendation of the IEA, to stop approving new oil and gas fields and new coal mines this year?
Senator, no.
So I've asked whether it's government policy to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies, to phase out unabated coal-fired power generation, to reach net zero emissions electricity by 2035. The answer to all of those has been no. Is it government policy to phase out all new internal combustion engine car sales, also discussed in that report roadmap by the IEA, by 2035?
No.
Okay.
Authorised by J. McCall, Australian Greens, Canberra.